What's going on, guys? Vulkan here, and today we're talking about a brand new roguelike action RPG called Ember Knights. And this one, guys, just feels great to play. The controls feel tight and responsive, the difficulty is well balanced, and there are some things that need to be improved, but you can tell this was made by people who understand the genre and who understand quality. Also, another big thing to note is that this is a co-op brawler kind of roguelike. So you have up to 4 players that can play all in the same game. You can connect a controller, all of that fun stuff. So let's get into what makes Ember Knights so good. So first off, Ember Knights from the story perspective is about, well, an Ember Knight. So this little guy was summoned by the Ember Tree after Praxis, basically his former good guy that turned bad, sucked all of the energy out of the Tree of Life and then left. And then there was one little Elder Guardian that was left, and he used the last of his energy to summon you, the Ember Knight. Now, your whole goal is to fight through various areas and then defeat Praxis. That way you can restore the tree, right? Very normal hero plot. It's one that works. It's tried and true. So there really isn't anything kind of crazy or big plot twists here. It's just, it is what it is. Now, as the Ember Knight, you're going to discover new NPCs and functions as you progress through the first area. Now, all of these are paced incredibly well. So you're unlocking things basically when you need them. I didn't really feel like I found something too early where I couldn't take advantage of it, or found something too late where I could have used it like 3 deaths ago. All of these came around the right time. Now, these NPCs are key elements of the overall gameplay loop that makes up Ember Knights, so you're going to be seeing them quite a bit. Now, when you first start the game, you have nothing, just like a normal roguelike. You're thrust into the world with a sword, and that's about it. And from the starting hub, what you're going to do is clear room after room of enemies, all of which have their own skills, own abilities that you need to learn, and then understand how to counter and avoid. You're going to run into rooms that have 2 exits. Each one will display the reward for clearing that room. So this sort of lets you like plan out, what do you want to do? How do you want to use this run? Do you want to use it to build up permanent Ember currency that you can use to unlock permanent upgrades? Do you want to get gold, which is a temporary currency that you can use for that specific run or to restore health? How about skills and stats? That way you can improve this specific run and be able to go deeper and deeper into the gauntlet per se. All of these are possible, and we're going to get into each one of them and talk about a little bit what they mean, how to use them, all of that fun stuff. Now, through your journey, periodically, you're going to run into a mini-boss room. Now, this is an elite enemy. They have a couple of different attacks. You need to avoid them. During my playthrough, I ran into 2 different ones in the forest region and then one in the snowy region. Now, the forest bosses, there were these kind of like large bees, a big mosquito. They all had similar attacks. They're easy to understand. They're very tutorial-oriented, right? They had these kind of very slow attacks you could dodge out of really easily. So there really wasn't anything crazy with them. But it was still cool to see an elite boss and, you know, something different than the little minions I'd been fighting up until this point. Now, during your first few runs, you're going to meet Evie, which is this dinosaur-looking NPC. She's an engineer, and basically she allows you to learn new skills through skill tablets. You're going to meet a merchant who's going to sell you randomized relics for gold, along with a purchasable health potion. And lastly, you're going to discover relic orbs. Now, these are items that you need to take back to the Ember Tree. They're going to identify them and unlock new relics that you can then find during your runs. These don't unlock for you permanently, but it unlocks the option to find these during your run. So you're probably wondering what all of these things are. I'm throwing a lot of terms at you. Relics, Ember, skill tablets. Well, these are how you improve your character's starting stats and how you unlock new things for them to find during runs. So relics are items that give you new powers. So for instance, let's say like every time you take damage, you deal damage back to the attacker. Or every time you use a skill, it poisons enemies around you. So all of these things can be used to push deeper and deeper into your runs, and you can use these to basically synergize with each other and craft an overall sort of build when it comes to pushing through into your runs. And you can kind of plan out, you know, if you get to a frost area, you know, having something that's going to help you deal with freezing enemies, or being able to freeze enemies and break them in order to heal yourself. So all of these things come into play. Then we have skill tablets. Now, these are essentially the same as relic orbs. So you find these when you defeat bosses and mini bosses. You can take them back to Evie and she'll unlock a new skill for you to find out in the field. And then lastly, we have Ember. So Ember is the lifeblood of the Ember Tree, and this is the main way that you can add permanent benefits to your character. So when you die, you return to the hub with all of the Ember that you collected. You can then spend it at the Ember tree to unlock increased health, starting gold, increased damage, quite a few different things. And each node can be upgraded several times as well. Now, when it comes to skills and relics, like I mentioned, you clear those rooms and you get a skill or a relic as a reward. You can have unlimited relics equipped and then up to 2 skills equipped. Now, the relics give passive bonuses, so you don't have to really kind of manage them, while skills are used when you want to use them. Now, I really like the way they did skills in this game. So skills don't have cooldowns. Instead, they have charges. And you can recharge your skills by landing attacks. And depending on the skill, some take more hits than others. But this lets you easily see how many hits you need. Plus, it rewards a more aggressive playstyle than sitting back and waiting on cooldowns. But this also means the developers can make skills more powerful because they don't have to worry about players just kind of kiting and using skills to whittle down bosses whenever they're off cooldown. So now that we've covered how the game functions, let's talk about my personal experience with it. So a few years ago, I wouldn't have given roguelikes a chance. They were something that I just could not get into. I couldn't wrap my head around. The thought of just slamming my character into death after death after death with nothing to show for it in a feeble attempt to improve and finish in a single life just wasn't appealing to me. It was the same thing with Souls-like, right? Or Souls-born games. You just really, to me, it wasn't appealing. But as I started to play more high-quality roguelikes, things like Hades, Anvil, Rogue Legacy, and now Ember Knights, this has really kind of shifted my mentality towards this genre. I enjoy the overall carefree attitude that comes with dying over and over now. But the main thing that really sold me on this whole gameplay loop, and honestly the whole genre, were the permanent upgrades that slowly started to show up in these roguelikes. The way you can upgrade your character and push a little further each time, or make your character slightly more your style. And this has been just a fantastic addition and has really given me an opportunity to actually spend time in this genre and appreciate what it is. So with Ember Knights, this has been a very solid experience so far. I have very little notes when it comes to what the game is. They don't really try anything out of the ordinary, and they don't try to innovate the formula. But what they did was absolutely nail the elements that I love about a roguelike. So during my runs, I started off with the sword because you have to. That's the first thing you get. And I worked my way through rooms until I reached the first boss, an actual boss, this huge spider. And here I died and I died and I died. And guys, just because I enjoy roguelikes now doesn't mean I'm good at them. I'm still terrible at them, but it's fun, right? But each time I was able to get a little bit more Ember. And each time I was able to improve my character, increasing my health, increasing my damage, and more gold. That way I could spend money in the merchant shop. That way I could get relics. And I timed out my run so that when I reached the merchant, I had enough gold to buy a potion or a new relic to use to help me kind of overcome and compensate for my lack of skill during some areas. But the real progress came when I unlocked the bow. So the bow is an alternative weapon that you get after you spend 225 Ember at the Ember tree. So once you spend that, it's going to unlock the bow. This took me about 6 or 7 runs. But once I got this weapon, guys, it completely changed everything. I was suddenly able to attack from range. It had a multi-shot mechanic, and because of how the bow gives increased movement speed, I was able to get out of attacks more often, so I didn't take as much damage. It fit me and my playstyle incredibly well. And this allowed me to push through rooms, past the merchant, into the boss room, and finally killing the spider that had nuked me over and over and over again, and it felt like an absolute breeze. But the thing is, my crusade didn't stop there. I continued slamming away at enemies until I got to the mini boss in the snow region and ultimately died because it was a stupid mistake. I tried to use a skill when I should have dodged and ended up eating an attack that just wiped me out. It was stupid. But honestly, it felt good to get a weapon that just worked for me. The sword was kind of like, it was an okay fit, but it wasn't great. The bow just was something completely different and fit me super well. So those are the only 2 weapons that we have available right now in Ember Knights, but I'm assuming they're going to come out with a magic slinging weapon, maybe throwing knives, like something, all these different varieties that they have out there. So this is the kind of perfect summarization of my time with Ember Knights. I felt like I spent the first 6 or 7 runs kind of building up passive stats and preparing for this huge push. And then once I got that bow, I made my move and just ran through everything, pushed super deep into the game, and then was able to get a bunch of Ember that I then made 4 or 5 upgrades on my character and allowed me to push through again and again, which was great. So in terms of difficulty, I know I talked about this the very, very, very beginning. Ember Knights is not bad at all. It feels challenging, but definitely not soul crushing. So going through it, it looks like there's only one difficulty, and that's just whatever it is. Like, you can't really adjust it to like nightmare or easy mode or whatever. Maybe another one unlocks once you fully beat the game, but I'm not quite sure. So overall, Ember Knights has been a fantastic little game to play. I really, like I said, don't have too many kind of criticisms on it because it's simple, it's to the point, it stays within its boundaries, but it does the things within those boundaries incredibly well. And I felt like I didn't have any frustrating moments. It was more just like, you know, kind of laughing at myself if I died, or understanding why I died. That was the big thing. That's the thing that's most frustrating for me in some of these games, is why did I die? What happened? But they make it incredibly clear, which is great. So it's currently in early access for $15. If you enjoyed Hades, I feel like you're going to enjoy what Ember Knights brings to the table. But guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been Vulkan, and I'll talk to you next time.
Sound off, one and all, everybody.